Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect. The preseason is finally started. I've been watching some NHL hockey for the last couple of days. Obviously, it's not necessarily NHL rosters, but it's half and half. So it's fun and it's on NHL ice, NHL quality. So really fun to do. Over analyzing everything is just the way I am. That's cool. I'm very excited for the Habs this season. Very excited because of all the players that have added, and we're talking like Noah Dobson and Zachary Bolduc and Ivan Demidov is going to play on the team all season. And basically, the players that left are Savard, they're Joel Harmia, they're like Vorak. So there are some important player that left, but what was added to the team is so much better than what left the team that it's a very net positive in my opinion. So I want to take the time to look at the Montreal Canadiens roster against every single team in the Atlantic Division. So basically we're gonna do that with every single division in the next couple of videos. But today we are going to do the Atlantic Division and talk about the Habs and compare them to every other team and basically rank them 1 to 8. I think that makes sense. I think so too. All right. So first, before we do that, please take the time to like, subscribe the video. You can also hype the video if you're on mobile. Please take the time to press that little hype button. It's going to help me be propelled to more people on the internet who wants to watch hockey stuff and prospect stuff. Even though this season we're going to be a little bit more NHL focused, we're still going to do all the prospect stuff that I usually do, but we're going to be talking about the Habs. We're going to be talking about the NHL a lot more than I do usually. And see how it goes from there. All right, so let's get this thing started. So the way we are going to do this is we are going to compare the Montreal Canadiens to every single team in the Atlantic Division, and we're going to go from number 1 to number 8, and that first team would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you look at it, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the top 6 is pretty good, or even very good. When you have William Nylander, Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Matthew Nyes, they are very, very good players. I don't think like Matias Maccelli is going to replace Mitch Marner in any way, shape, or form. He wasn't good last season. Maybe he will be better with the Maple Leafs because he's going to be playing with better players, but like, I don't know. Bobby McMahon on the second line. I don't know if that's the way it's going to be, but for now, that's what they are saying here. It's just a complimentary player. But then after that, in the bottom 6, Nick Roy is a very good addition to the team. Easton Cowan is probably going to have a good season. He's a very good junior player. I think he's going to be good in the NHL. I don't think he's a star or anything like that, but I think he will be a good player. Dakota Joshua, Steven Lawrence, Scott Lawton, and Nick Robertson. It's a decent bottom 6. It has decent depth. It's not like crazy, but I think it's pretty good. And that top 6 is good too, but it's like that Mitch Marner hole is very apparent when you look at that. And like, I don't think that Matias Maccelli can replace that, but it is what it is. When you look at the defensive pairing and we compare with the Montreal Canadiens here, Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev, I think that's a good pairing. Morgan Riley, who can really move the puck. Brendan Carlo is going to be the physical guy. Ekman Larson, who was really, really good last season, in my opinion. I think it's one of the guys that didn't expect him to jump back to be this good. He's a different player than he used to be, but I think he's a much more mature, much more better player than he used to. Not necessarily better than what he used to be, because there's a point where he was really, really good, especially offensively, but now he's like more complete defensively and offensively. And Simon Benoit, well, could be replaced at any point by another player. I think it's like he's a bubble type of guy, but overall, it's not a bad defense. It's just when your first pair is Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev, it's a little bit of a issue, in my opinion. It's definitely an elite. It's not an elite defensive core for sure. Like in your top 4, Morgan Riley, Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, and Brandon Carlo, it's definitely not a top 4, but the depth is good enough with Oliver Ekman Larson on that 4th line. I think they can split the minute between those guys because they have like decent player on each line. It's just that there's no real like first pair or first like number 1 defenseman in there. It's just okay. And in net, they have Anthony Stolarz, and then it says Dennis Ildebai, but it's because Wall is gone for now, and there's no like date for him to come back for personal reasons. But Stolarz is really good. He was really good in Florida, and then he was really good in Toronto, and I think he's just gonna continue to be really good. So That's not a problem. And in injuries, like they said, like I said, Joseph Wool is gone, and Max Domi is probably going to be the guy who's going to take that spot on the first line instead of Bobby McMahon, or maybe he's going to replace Matias Michelli. I don't know which one, but he's probably going to be replacing one of those two players, which give them a better top six outlook than what it is with Michelli and McMahon on it. So let's jump to the next one. And the next one is the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that's just consistently very good in the NHL. When we look at that top six, it's Nikita Kucherov, who's the best winger in the entire NHL by a pretty significant margin, in my opinion. And then you have Jake Gensel, who's like another like top 10, top 15 winger in the NHL. And then you have Brendan Hagel, who's another like top 10, top 15 winger in the NHL. And then Anthony Cirelli, who's a very, very good second line center, in my opinion. New contract, like I think he's paid 6.5 now, if I'm not mistaken. So he's more expensive than he used to be. But behind Braden Point, who's very good offensively and defensively, and now you have Anthony Cirelli, who's a little like steam machine. he's just a guy that's all over the ice, very intense, very fast, very good defensively, can also make plays offensively. So I think that top six, obviously the Gage Conclaves here, maybe they're going to replace it with Connor Geeky at some point, even though he's not really a right winger. I don't know. Maybe they will do that. I think it would make more sense to have Connor Geeky in the top six than Gage Conclave, but they can do whatever they want. That bottom six, Yanni Gold on the third line, Borgstrand, and then either Conclave or Geeky there. And then Pontus Holmberg, Gergensen, and Mitchell Chaffee. It's not a great bottom six. It's just not deep, in my opinion. Like, yeah, I don't like it. Like, maybe I don't even know what to say. It's just I feel like all those players, now maybe not George Strand and Yanni Gold or whatever, but I feel like they are all like bubble players. They're not necessarily really like good top bottom six player, but they're gonna make me lie and they're gonna finish like super high in the ranking anyway. And then their defensive pairing, they have Victor Edmond, JJ Moser on the first pair, which is fine. Victor Edmond can definitely mend that line and make most of it. And JJ Moser is not a bad player whatsoever. He's just not on the same level that Sergachev was, obviously. Ryan McDonough, who's still playing. He's older and slower, but I mean, he's still there. Still an efficient player. Eric Chernak, same thing, but not same thing because he's not an older player, but I think he's a good defenseman. So in the end, that top four it's not elite. I mean, the only reason why it would be elite is Victor Armand, because even at his age, he's still very, very good player. But outside of that, like it's not an elite top four by any means. Like even if you compare with the Montreal Canadiens, there's less experience on it because of Ryan McDonough and Victor Armand, who are like in their late 30s. But if I had to compete for the next couple years, I would take Mike Matheson, Noah Dobson, Ken Gooley, and Lane Hudson over those pairing for sure. But if you're going to war this year for the Stanley Cup, I'm not sure which one I'm taking, but I think that over the time, Tampa Bay has proved that they are very good defensively and they are doing a good job. So I think it's probably like it's a very different defense, and Victor Edmond could at any point just be just take over and be that number one defenseman that he's been in his entire career and just drive this team. And then in the net, well, they always have that guy, Andrei Vasilevsky, who's one of the best goalie in the NHL, if not the best goalie in the NHL. Well, maybe not the best. I think that's now Elliot Buck, but like he's still always around like number 2, number 3, number 1. It depends. So yeah, I think there's really no issue. And there's one guy that's going to be in the bottom 6, Nick Paul, who's really going to help that bottom 6 because, like I said, I think it was a little bit weak. But if you add Nick Paul to that, it sure helps a little bit with Yanni Gold and George Strand on that third line. So not a bad team. I think they're not as great as they used to be, but at the same time, every single year they finish high in the lineup, and they're so good. I think that top 6 is going to be eating so many minutes. They're going to be on the ice so much time that it just doesn't matter because they can do that. Top 6 can do everything. Like they can be very good defensively, they can be very good offensively, and they can just eat all the minutes. And then you just split the rest of the minutes between your third line and your fourth line. Yeah, I think they are going to be good, even though that bottom 6 is just okay in my opinion. And now, if we compare that to the Stanley Cup winners, the Florida Panthers, well, obviously now you have Alexander Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe, who's like probably the best line in the entire hockey or something like that. They're just so good together. And then you have Sam Bennett as a second line center, who's probably one of the best second line center, even though the production is not necessarily a high production type of guy. He has a role and he just executes that role perfectly. And yeah, I think it's just that top six, even though like Maki Samuskevich and Evan Rodriguez are not like high end top six player by any mean, but they are players that can be serviceable in that top six. And when you have a first line like that and your line center is a like big, mean, heavy forecheck, good defensively, good offensively, can put some points on the board, but not that much. I think it's perfectly fine. And then that third line is centered by Anton Lundell, who probably shouldn't be in the bottom six. Let's face it, he should probably be on the top six. But the fact that like Sam Bennett is there, well, he can't take that spot. And then you have Lesterainen and Brad Marchand. That's really, really good. So maybe Marchand's going to move up if things don't go well, whatever. I think it's fine. And then Bokus, Kunin, and Whistle. That fourth line is just okay, but it is what it is. I mean, they are the Stanley Cup champion like 2 years in a row, and they went to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. So what can I say? Like, I like the third line. I think it's perfect. I think that second line is a little bit weak. So maybe at some point, like Brad Marchand moves on it or something like that. But overall, like you can't. I cannot build an argument saying that it's a weak team or it's a weak bottom six or the middle six is just okay when that team has went to the final 3 years in a row. Like there's no way my argument would stand up to what they've proven they can do. So if we look at the defense, Gustav Forsling, super underrated players. I think the more we advance in time and the more people realize how good Gustav Forsling is now, Aaron and glad that they were capable of re-signing. I think he's a good player. He's not as good as where he was drafted, and I don't think he's like he's fine. He's a fine player. He's just not a great player. Mikola was really good for them. Seth Jones was really good. They took Seth Jones from a horrible team and they put him like in one of the best team in the NHL, and all of a sudden the guy was great. So it's like often people forget that when you play a player that's maybe not the main driver and you put him on a bad team, it's possible that he can't be like really good. But then when you put him on a good team with a good structure and a good line mates, well, then it's possible that player can actually come back to what he was. It's not like Seth Jones forgot how to play hockey and forgot how to be the athletic defenseman that he can be. He was always there. It's just that he needed to be out of Chicago, I guess, because he was in a terrible situation. So that top four is really, really good. It's super solid, super good defensively and offensively. It can put up points on the board. It can defend against any other line and against any top line in the NHL. Really, really good. And then Kulikov and Petrie. I don't know if Petrie can still play. I feel like he was pretty bad last year, but he has a lot of experience, and Kulikov is not bad. And when you look at in the net, well, oops, not there. Sergei Bobrovsky, I think it's the last year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken, and Tarasov. So Bobrovsky can do the work, that's for sure. I mean, every year is proven that he's just good and good and good. He's always been good, so I think he's still going to be good. But at some point, they will need to replace him. And obviously, there's Matthew Tkachuk right here, who's is he having a surgery and he's gonna come back in a couple months? I think it's something like that. So obviously, that top six that I was talking about Maki Samuskevich and Evan Rodriguez, one of those two players is going to go down, and then they're gonna redo the top six with Matthew Tkachuk in there. So you add like probably the best power forward / grinder / finisher in the NHL, and you add that to that top six, there's a reason why they go to the final every single year. So yeah, I think they might be a little bit tired because of 3 consecutive trip to the NHL Stanley Cup final. So maybe they will be a little bit tired and they won't be as good in the regular season. But I think that it's basically by design. they are going to slow it down a little bit. They don't care much about the home advantage or stuff like that. So I think they will just take it a little step slower this year in the regular season, and then come back in the playoff hard like they usually do. And next, it's the Ottawa Senator, and that team did really well last season, and I think they can do well again this season. The top six of Tim Stutzla, Brady Ketchuk, Drake Batherson, Ridley Gregg, who was on a third line last year, if I'm not mistaken, Shane Pinto, Claude Giroux, Dylan Cousin. Um, they're all players that can play in the top six. I think Shane Pinto is probably going to go on the third line, and Dylan Cousins is going to be on the second line. Uh, we'll see how they do with their lines, but overall, like they have a lot of players that can play in that top six role. I think Shane Pinto is ready for that. I think Ridley Gregg is not necessarily a top six player, but he's a complementary top six player. But he's definitely a good middle six player. So I think that he's perfectly fine in there. So like basically they have Tim Stutzla, Batherson, Greg, Ketchuk, Pinto, Giroux, and Dylan Cousin, who are all players that can play in that top six. Fabian Zetterlund, who's not my favorite player, but still a player that can finish with the puck, can play in that top six. Amario is just okay. Arthur Kaliev, I don't know why they went to go get him, but maybe he's gonna be good for them. Lars Eller is a little bit like at the end of the rope, but still maybe a serviceable fourth line center. And David Perron, who can also be a decent player. So overall, I think that team is not only deep, but it's also very solid at the top. The offensive core, not just the core, like the offensive team of the Ottawa Senator is looking really, really good. They have no issue with the center line with Tim Stutzla, Shane Pinto, and Dylan Cousin. That's a very good center line. And on the wing, players like Drake Batherson and Brady Kitchuk. I mean, it's looking pretty good. So obviously, at some point, Claude Giroux and David Perron, they're gonna slow down. Well, they already slowed down. It's just how much are they gonna be slowed down for next season? That's the part that we don't know. So it will depend a little bit on them, but we'll see how it goes. And then the defensive pairing, Jake Sanderson is a star player in the NHL, so obviously he can drive his own line. That's not a problem. And Artem Zub is another player that's a little bit underrated. Not to the same extent as Gustav Forsling, but still he's a good player. Thomas Chabot is another player that's really good. Kind of matured a little bit. He's not just that offensive guy anymore, so he's not putting the same amount of point, and I think he's better defensively. I don't think he'll ever be great defensively, but if you pair him with a guy with like Nick Jensen, who has a lot of experience and is very good defensively, I think that's perfect. Like it's a solid top four. Is it the greatest top four out there? Probably not, but Jake Sanderson can really like drive that defense. But still, with Jake Sanderson, Shaba, and Nick Jansen and Artem Zub, I think it's a solid top four, just not an elite one. And then on your third pair, you have Tyler Kleven is going to be playing his second season, and Jordan Spence, who was just acquired from LA. I think two players that are decent. Like I'm not a big fan of Jordan Spence, but I think he's a player that can move the puck efficiently. He's not that bad defensively. And Tyler Kleven is a guy that can't do anything with the puck, but he's decent defensively. So I think it's a perfect third pair. They have a guy that can skate, that can move the puck, and they have a guy that can defend well. So in the end, I think that team is constructed pretty well to go fight this season. And even in the playoff, like they have big players, they have players that have experience, they have players that are big and physical. They have little Ridley Greggs. they're just players not fun to play against. And then you have in the net, they have Linus Olmark, who's probably one of. I'm not saying like he's one of the best goalie in the NHL, but he's a very, very good goalie. Very consistent. So it's not going to be a problem whatsoever. I think he's just very good. And then Marilainen as a backup, so that's perfectly fine. That team is solid, man. I like what they build. They don't have much coming up. So for the next few years, when Claude Giroux and David Perron are gone, and I don't think Arthur Kaliev or even Lars Eller is the answer to what they were looking for. But overall, I think they have depth and I think they have quality. So it's a very good team. I think they will finish pretty high. And then the Detroit Red Wings, a team that's a little bit stuck in the middle. Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, Elmer Soderblom. I don't think Soderblom is going to be on that first line. Highly doubt it. Do they have a player that's injured in there? Simon and Benson, but that's going on to be on the defense. So, anyways, like there's no way Elmer Soderblom is on that first line. Then Marco Casper, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat. Solid second line. I think Marco Casper is going to take a step, and I think like he's a player that can probably produce something like 50 something points in the NHL, I think. And if you pair it with a guy like Alex DeBrincat, can finish, and a guy like Patrick Kane that can do both finish and create plays, create space for other, I think it's going to work well. It's just like there's nothing elite in there. Outside, I think Lucas Raymond can become that elite winger. There's a chance that he gets there. Is it this season? Is it in a couple seasons from now? I don't know. I think he has that potential to get there. Dylan Larkin is not an elite center, but I think he's a first line center. But he's just not at the elite level or something like that. Like I'd rather have Dylan Larkin on my second line than my first line, but at the same time, he's capable of playing on that first line. It's just not a strong first line center, in my opinion. And then the bottom six: Andrew Cup, Appleton, Rasmussen, which is fine. GT Comfort, fine. Berggren, and Van Riemsdyk. So there's even depth. I think throughout the whole like roster here, there's depth. It's just the quality of that team is not quality enough. It's not elite enough. I don't think they have enough players in there that are elite level player to actually like, are they gonna make the playoff? I'm not even sure they're still gonna make the playoff with that roster. It's really like, if that's what the roster is going to look like for the next couple of years, and all they're gonna add is players like Brandsegg Nygaard and the other guy Danielson and stuff like that. Those are not players that are going to change significantly what's already at the NHL level. So I don't think, I think they're stuck in the middle for a while, but for this season, I think they are still in the middle. There might be a chance that they get into the playoff, but at the same time, there's still a big fat chance that they just don't. And then there's the defensive pairing. Moritz Seider, amazing player. I think he's a first pair player, probably a number one defenseman. So I think that's great. Ben Sherratt on the same line just doesn't make sense. But hey, it is what it is. They have Simon Edvinsson that's not here now. So Simon Edvinsson is probably going to man his own line. I don't think they're going to pair Moritz Seider and Edvinsson so they can actually spread the wealth a little bit. But then it's so weak, right? Albert Johansson, Bernard Docker, Gustafsson, and Justin Holl. Like, man, like I don't know how you're expected to compete for a playoff spot with that defense. Personally, I think it's terrible defense. Obviously, when you take Moritz Seider and you take Simon Edvinsson individually, they are a great player that can drive their own pair. But as a whole, that defense is very bad. Maybe Axel Sandin-Pellikka comes in and can actually like move the puck at a decent level in the NHL. I'm not sure he's going to be like a big puck mover in his first year. I don't think he has that type of skill. And maybe defense is going to be a little bit hard in the NHL too. But I'd much rather have a guy like Sandin-Pellikka somewhere in there than Gustafsson or Bernard Docker. It's just, I don't know. I don't like it at all. Maybe it's just me that don't know those players. I don't know. I feel like I know them pretty well, and I don't like them. And then in net, they acquired John Gibson, which is going to be probably good for them. I think John Gibson is a good goalie. I think the numbers support that he was a good goalie on a bad team. So I think it's going to be good for them because Cam Talbot is probably not it right now. So I think that's going to help them maybe gain a couple points. It's just, I guess, they're a bubble team. They're a team that didn't do enough to be a sure shot to be in the playoff, and they didn't lose enough or anything like that to be a team that's falling down. So, and I think they are stuck there for a good while. So good luck, my friends. And then there's Buffalo, the famous Buffalo Sabres. And man, I would like to say like this team is going places, and I think like they are doing some good things. It's just when you look at that offensive lines, okay, you have Josh Norris, Zach Benson, Tage Thompson. I think Josh Norris, if he plays the entire season, is a very good player. Tage Thompson is a star player. Zach Benson is a guy that was too fast in the NHL. Maybe he's going to be good next season. Maybe he's still just a 30 points. Is he capable of playing first line minutes? I don't think so whatsoever, but they can do whatever they want. Yuri Kulich as your second center. I think it's more Ryan McLeod that's going to be the second center, not Yuri Kulich. And then Jack Quinn, Alex Tuck. So, and after that, you have Zucker, Josh Doan, Krebs, Danforth, Mellenstein. Like that fourth line is not great in my opinion, but the third line could, I think, like it's going to be Yuri Kulich here. That's decent, but the thing is that you're betting that Jack Quinn is going to take a step, and you're betting that Zach Benson is going to take a step, and those are very big ifs for your top six. And if they don't, or just one of them does, or that step isn't that big or that significant, then your season is ruined. Like, and that's that center line, and like Josh Norris followed by McLeod and Yuri Kulich. I think McLeod is good, and I think Josh Norris is good. It's just that Josh Norris never plays a full season, so then your first line center becomes Ryan McLeod, and he's a 40-point player. So yeah, man, it's rough. It's very rough. And then defensively, they have Ramis Dahlin is one of the best defensemen in the entire league, so that's perfectly fine. Bowen Byram, who's also a very good defenseman, not every day, not necessarily consistent, but he's a defenseman that can really move the puck, and is not great defensively, but I think he has the potential to be good enough defensively. And then you have Owen Power, who's a very, very good defenseman on both sides of the puck and move the puck and also defend really well, long reach. So, yeah, and then Kesselring that they just acquired. And then, well, Matthias Samuelsson didn't do really good in the last couple of seasons, but maybe playing less minutes, it's going to help him. And Connor Timmins, who's basically just a non-factor. Do they have any injured players? Greenway doesn't change much. Alex Tuck, he was already there, no? Alex Tuck, yeah, okay. Alex Tuck is here. And the other one was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen as a backup goalie to Alex Lyon. Woo. Or Levi, maybe. Maybe Levi's going to play in the NHL. One way or another, that those goalies, it doesn't look great. There's no way that those goalies, they give you a lot of confidence to reach the playoffs. Then that top six or top nine is not it wouldn't give me confidence that I would reach the playoff either. And then, but the defense though is what I like about it. I think that top four is a very, very, very good top four. It's close to an elite top four in my opinion, if it's not. So it's just the rest. So you're hoping that either Zach Benson or Jack Quinn are going to be very, very good, or that player like Ostlund is going to jump up or something like that and make a difference. Yeah, it's rough. I don't see them making the playoff unless like there's a big jump in players like Quinn and Benson and their goaltending. So that's a lot of ifs. And the last but not least, it's the Boston Bruins, who have an okay lineup, I would say. Like Elias Lindholm as your first line center is not great. There's no way to put it. David Pastrnak is like the second best winger in the entire NHL, something like that. So that's very good. Morgan Geekie has been good last season. I think didn't he reach like 60 points or something like that last season? Is it because he's playing with Pastrnak? It's probably a big part of it. That's what it is. But I mean, he still has to score those goals and he still has to make those plays. So I think in the end, it's a line that works. Casey Middlestad, I was never a fan of him. I'm still not a fan of him. I'm not sure what he can do. And then if you pair that with Marat Kuznetsov, like not Kuznetsov, but Kuznetsov. I don't know what Kuznetsov brings to your team. A lot's going to have to change for him to be a top six player. Is there any injury? No injuries. So yeah, that I'm guessing Pavel Zacha is probably going to go on that here, or maybe Middlestad is going to change there, and Pavel Zacha is going to move up. I can't see like Kuznetsov being in your top six. It doesn't make sense. And then you have Tanner Janot, Blumel, Kastelik, A. Simon, and Kureli. So I think that fourth line is actually pretty decent. I think Tanner Janot on the third line is pretty good. It's just I don't think like I don't know like they don't really have another center here to fill that role. So maybe they're gonna have to leave it like that. like it's an okay group. It's just nothing great, right? Your first line, outside of Pasternak, everything else is just okay. Your second line is like this. It looks terrible. It's not a second line at the NHL level. So I think outside of your first line, there's just not enough to actually help you. So it's gonna be very easy for team to make a plan to defend against Boston because they're gonna say once you shut down Pasternak with that first line, basically, well then you have nothing to worry about for the rest of the night. On defense, Charlie McAvoy, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, so I think that's really good. And Ampus Lidholm, another defenseman who's really, really, really good. And I understand splitting the wealth again, so they don't necessarily pair them together. But Mason Lohrei, there's no way this guy is a first pair defenseman. He has no clue how to defend whatsoever. I think he can move the puck well, which he did also in the NCAA. It's just that defense for him is a problem, and I think it's going to remain a problem unless he learns how it works or something like that. Zadorov, that he's a pretty good player. Yuki Haru is an okay player. Andrew Peak is okay. So it's not necessarily a bad defense. It's just I don't know how you have Mason Lohrei on your first line and you expect to win games. That's a big problem. You're gonna have to move another player somewhere there because that's probably not going to work for them. Maybe in their case, they don't split the wealth. They actually put emphasis Lindholm on the first pair, and maybe you get like Zadorov on your second pair with whoever of those three players that are left, trying to complete some type of a top four. But like this, it's looking weak. But then you have two very good players in Charlie McAvoy and Ampus Lindholm. And then in net, well, you have Jeremy Swayman, who could be good, could be not good. We'll see how it goes. Second season of his contract, so I hope for them that he's going to be great. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad if he's terrible and he's terrible for the duration of his contract. That would be, I just don't like Boston, so it's okay. But yeah, I think it's clear that to me it looks like this team and Buffalo are going to be fighting for the bottom. I don't know how you expect this to compete for anything. Like I said, I like that fourth line, but outside of that, that top six is weak. The middle six is weak. So, yeah. All right. And then the last team to take a look at, and basically the team that was open the whole time, is the Montreal Canadiens. We're talking about Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Juraj Slafkovsky on the first line. Was one of the best line in the NHL last year, and I expect it to continue that way. Nick Suzuki is probably at his peak. Cole Caulfield probably close to his peak, and Juraj Slafkovsky is still reaching for his ceiling. I think he's going to take a step, or at least I hope he's going to take a step. That would be great. That second line could be good. It could be rough. We don't know for the second line center. Maybe Kirby Dach becomes a good player and he's not terrible defensively and offensively. Maybe he doesn't. That's the part that we don't know. That 2C is the big problem for the Montreal Canadiens, and it's going to keep going to be that big problem unless a guy like Kirby Dach become that second line center, or a guy like Kapanen becomes second line center, or they acquire a player for that second line center. But outside of that, Patrick Laine on the left, Ivan Demidov on the right. I think it works out. Demidov, amazing playmaker, but he's going to be on his first year. But I think he's going to be feeding Patrick Laine really well all season. It just depends who's going to be that second line center. That's the problem. Outside of that, in the bottom six, Alex Newhook. Here they have Owen Beck, but it could be Owen Beck. It could be Oliver Kapanen. It could be even Florian Jacki, but it would be more on the fourth line, I expect. So, but anyways, like that's a great line, I think, in my opinion. Zach Bolduc is probably a guy that's a good middle six player right now that has a chance to be a top six player, centered with Alex Newhook or Owen Beck or Kapanen, depending who does better in the training camp and in the preseason. And then that fourth line of Jake Evans, Josh Anderson, and Brendan Gallagher is basically, it's a fourth line here, but it's not necessarily going to be a fourth line in the NHL. It's going to be a line that's going to eat a lot of minutes because Jake Evans can win his face off. He can play defensively. Josh Anderson is also a guy that can play defensively, has a lot of speed, very good on the forecheck, very fast, very heavy. And Brendan Gallagher is that, soul player, the guy that goes in front of the net. Very expensive fourth line, but I think it's a very good fourth line, and it's not going to be a fourth line that's going to play like 8 minutes a night. That's the type of line that's just going to be playing a lot of time. Basically, they're going to be able to save the energy for other players in the top six by playing that fourth line much more than typical fourth lines. And then in the defensive pairing, we have Mike Matheson, we have Noah Dobson, Caden Gooley, Lane Hudson, Arbor Jackai, and Alex Carrier. I think if Carrier and Jackai or Struble here plays together on the third pair, that is perfect. That's where they should be. And I mean, it's great to have a guy like Carrier on your third pair. I think he's a guy that can play in the top four, probably more suited to play on your third pair. And if you have him on your third pair, it's basically a luxury. So that's great. That first pair of Mike Matheson and Noah Dobson is going to be the pair that's going to eat the most minutes, is going to be the pair that's going to play against every team's best offensive line. It's going to be them. Yes, Mike Matheson can make a mistake here and there, can force a play here and there. Yes, Noah Dobson can. He's not even that bad defensively. No, it's not even that he's not that bad defensively. He's great defensively. He just makes some mistakes here and there, but he doesn't really have like boneheaded plays like Matheson. But like they can move the puck so well, they can skate so well. They both have a little bit of size. Like Noah Dobson 6'4", Mike Matheson is like 6'1" or 6'2", something like that. There's not going to be a physical pair, but they're going to be a pair that's really hard to play against defensively because they can just catch up on everything. They can keep every player to the outside. I'm sure they can clean the front of the net if there's a player there. That's not going to be an issue. And they can skate the puck out, pass the puck out. They can retrieve pucks, no problem. Yeah, that's going to be a great pair for the Montreal Canadiens. And then you have Caden Gooley and Lane Hudson together. Lane Hudson is the dynamo of the pair for sure. Caden Gooley is the physical, very good skater, more defensive defenseman. Even though it's more like a two-way because the guy can he can join a rush, he can score, he can pass, can make plays. He's a very, very good skater, both defensively and offensively. So I think that's going to be really good. But obviously, Caden Gooley is going to take like the back seat and defend while Lane Hudson does his thing. But that's an elite top four in my opinion, because Caden Gooley is a player that could play on a first line, but he's probably better on a second pair because he's not the best puck mover out there. But you pair him with a guy that's so dynamic in Lane Hudson, and then you have a first pair of players that can eat 25, 26 minutes a night, absolutely no problem. And then you have a guy like Alex Carrier on a third pair, which is, like I said, a luxury, and you can pair him with a guy like Jackai or Struble. So that is really, really good. And if we take a look at the goaltending, Sam Montembeault has been a really good goalie for the last couple of years. He's been getting better every single year. So even if he doesn't get better next year, like where he is right now is more than enough for the Montreal Canadiens to make the playoff. I think he's a great goalie in the NHL right now. And if you have a backup like Jacob Dobish, all he has to do is work a little bit on his consistency, because overall he had some very, very good games. He had some games where it was a little bit more rough, but overall he had very good game at the NHL level. And if you're the backup to Montembeault is going to be very fine as a starter. And then Jacob Dobish, if you can just put more games in a row where he's good instead of like two good, one not so good, and then one good and one not good, and like just work on the consistency, and it's going to help the team tremendously. So yeah, I think that lineup is looking really good. That top four is looking really good. The bigger problem is definitely that 2C. Maybe Kirby Dach is what they acquired him for, but maybe he's not either. So that's the problem. It's just right now we are like swimming in unknown waters. We don't know what Kirby Dach can do. We don't know if Kapanen can take that spot. We don't know if we can acquire him. We don't know if Alex Newhook can play in that spot. We don't know. Like Zach Bolduc was a center, but he was a center like 15 minutes in the QMJHL and never in the NHL. So yeah. It's the big problem. And I mean, it's a major problem because your center line at the NHL level is extremely important to be a playoff team and to go deep in the playoff. It's super important. So it's a major hole. So that could be it could be the death of the Montreal Canadiens this season. It could be that center line. So we'll see how it goes. And then if we come to that page here, I think it's obvious that the two bottom teams are probably going to be the two bottom teams again. I think Boston basically didn't do anything to make it better. And the Buffalo Sabres, even though they acquired Kesselring and tried to fix that defense a little bit, they still, in the same process, lost a guy of 70 points. So that's not going to help the team offensively. And they're basically betting on players taking a big step and more than one player taking a big step. So I think that's just not going to work. I think Detroit, too, they are going to be number 6. I don't think they did enough to be in that race. I think every other team have a big step or at least a decent step in front of them. So basically 8 Boston and 7 Buffalo and then Detroit again. I think at number 5 is going to be Toronto. I think Toronto is going to take a big step down because Marner, obviously. Marner, like in the regular season, Marner is one of the best winger in the entire NHL. He's one of the best playmaker there is. He's very good defensively. Obviously, he's not the player you want him to be in the playoff, but still, to get to the playoff, you need to play through 82 games of the regular season, and Marner is a major, major plus on your team in the regular season. So now he's not there. Now it's Machelli. So I think they are going to take a giant drop because of that. It's going to be a major problem for their power play. I think it's going to be a major problem at 5v5 and defensively. After that, I think it's going to be the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think the Montreal Canadiens right now have what it takes to like take a step over a team like Florida or Tampa or something like that. But because Toronto lost Marner, I think that's doable. And after that, it's going to be Florida. A little step, like, that's where they finished last year, and I think like they're probably gonna start it slow. They're not gonna have Kachuk for the first few months of the season, and tired being in the Stanley Cup final for 3 years in a row. And then after that's going to be Ottawa, and after that's going to be Tampa. So basically Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Toronto, Montreal, Florida, Ottawa, and then Tampa Bay. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's a pretty good ranking. Let me know in a comment what you think the ranking of the Atlantic Division is going to be this season. Try to do a good prediction, and we'll see what you say. And please take the time to like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, press that hype button if you're on mobile. It's going to help, like I said, propel me to more people want to watch hockey stuff. And that's it. See you in the next one. Peace.